In the Gaza's neighborhood, there lived all kinds of parents, the modern ones, the contemporaries, the old-fashioned, the single ones, the couples, and many more. But there was a family in particular that frightened all the entire neighborhood. No one could dare approach their house. Hearing the sound of the bike of the father of this house, all the children would run and hide in their dark rooms. This father was Papa Thomas, the angry dog of Gaza's neighborhood. Everyone was afraid of him, even his own wife. Don't ask me how he managed to meet her or even marry her. All we know is that one day he went on for a mission trip sent by his school, found a young woman selling at the market square of the village, came back with her and married her, and they have 5 children, the first of them called Jane. Papa Thomas had a reputation of being always nervous and short-tempered. He would beat his children at all drop of a hat. They were forbidden from coming home after him. Whoever dared to come home after him had to sleep in the yard. Neighbors were forbidden to officiate in his yard, even though he was the only one having a well in the quarter. No one could draw water from his well when he was at home. Papa Thomas was so difficult to live with. He had no empathy for anyone. When he passed through the neighborhood and found a couple fighting or arguing violently, he would just raise his head up to the sky and say unto himself, "Every man will defend himself, God for all." What happened, therefore? That this man became the sweetest, most helpful man who even helped the neighborhood to become one of the most flourishing in the city. Come, let's enter together into the story of Papa Thomas. Papa Thomas was born in a village in the west region of the country. His father met his mother in a big city and took her to his village as his wife. But upon arrival, his parents had already found him another wife, so he simply settled with both. Thomas's mother became pregnant and gave birth to him, but she didn't like the atmosphere in the village and had never dreamed really to live in a polygamous house, so she took her son away and went to live in another city. Thomas grew therefore very far away from his father and his paternal family. At the age of 15, Papa Thomas left the city to go in search of his father and his paternal family. When he arrived in the village, he looked everywhere. He would ask, "Do you know a certain king fact? Have you heard about a certain king fact? Do you know a certain family king fact?" He was at the village market square, and everyone was looking at him with a questioning, like, "Who is this young man?" No one knew him there, but some of the king fact's family's neighbor noticed a peculiar resemblance with that family. Indeed, it is not uncommon to notice among the people of many of these villages traits of resemblance. Not so. You'd see either eyes that look alike, dark eyes, a particular head shape, a way of standing, a distinct vocal timbre. Everyone has something particular as trait of resemblance in this family of this village. So one of the people sitting at the counter, and the old woman asked him, "Young man, who are you looking for? Young man, who are you looking for, and what are you looking for here?" King Fak replied, "I was told that I'm from this village and particularly from the King Fak family, but I don't know exactly where the King Fak family lives." "Ah, I see. What's your name? Come on." "My name is Thomas Abena King Fak. My father is from here and my mother is from the center region. I must confess that I'm lost. I need to find my father and my paternal family." The old woman pointed out the house under the hill. There, just over there, in the compound, you will find them. He left, and upon his arrival in the compound, they immediately recognized his face. He looks remarkably like my third son. Come here. What's your name? Hello, Grandma. My name is Thomas Abenakenfa, and I'm looking for my father's family and my father too. I'm 15, and I was told I could find my father and his family here. Indeed, it was his grandmother. She was so moved to see him again after so long. A big feast was organized to receive and welcome one of the sons of the compound. They told him that his father had left the village a long time ago and had settled in another city, and that they hadn't heard of him for quite some time now. This was back then when phones were very rare, so they either had to wait for him at home in the village until the day he would return, or go to the city and start looking for him God knows where. Thomas returned to the city very sad and vowing never to return to the village. How can my own father not even want to know me? It's been over 15 years and he's living his life. His uncle, one of his brother's siblings, offered to pay his education, and he finally obtained his GCE ordinary level. After this, he entered into the teacher training college and graduated as a primary school teacher. Since Thomas had to grow up in a rather difficult environment, he learned to fend for himself very young, as his mother preferred to enjoy life and go here and there from one man to another. He had to develop a rather tough character. He was closed off. He didn't like being approached. He never liked anyone asking him questions or asking him too much about his life. He spent a lot of time in bars, drinking and smoking cigarettes, and had very few friends. He built this barrier as a protection against all form of hurt, as he has been so disappointed and felt unloved and abandoned by his father and his mother. Papa Thomas had grown up this way, so when he married his wife and started having children, he felt a compelling feeling within him, like a void, a lack of responsibility. He told himself he absolutely had to be a good father for his children. He didn't want them to feel neglected, and had his daughters making the same mistake as his mother did by falling in the arms of the first man. He also didn't want his sons to get any girl pregnant, just anyhow repeating the pattern he blamed his own father of. So he made sure his children were always under his control. They were not allowed to go out without his permission or go anywhere without any form of permission. He needed to keep them as far away from his family as possible. The atmosphere in his house was always tense and stressful. His wife, Martha, was already used to it, having lived in a similar home. No one liked to hang out in the living room when he was around. He would watch the news at 8 p.m. in front of his old color-gray TV of the 90s, and he would stay awake till 10 p.m. Papa Thomas always came home late, fearing to wake his wife up and find himself in their usual arguments and disagreements and fights, was called and hit the children. He didn't like the situation, but he thought it was the only way to have a disciplined, upright family would succeed one day. One day, one of his sons, Daddy, had a very serious car accident and died instantly. This deeply wounded Papa Thomas, who closed up himself more in his strictness. He now forbade his children from going to school without him. He took them to school himself on his bike and enrolled the eldest in a school next to the house. He gave all his best to ensure that his children had a good education. It is true he was very harsh, a threatening voice like that of an angry dog, It is true he was always frowned at by the residents of the neighborhood, but deep down, he felt like a child. He just needed someone to understand him and who could help him become that man he desperately wanted to be, gentler, more loving and more understanding. The death of his son Didi touched him so much that one day, while passing by in the neighborhood, he found that a new church was built and the pastor was singing with the people. He heals, he saves lives. He raises the dead, he does not change. God has done miracles and wonders, and God will do it again. Upon hearing the sentence, he raises the dead. He remembered Didi and became very angry because he had heard a lot of bad things about these churches where people shouted, cried while praying and spoke strange tongues. Papa Thomas decided to harm them. Every time he would pass by the church, he would throw stones on the roof, uttering all sorts of insults. The pastor asked the people to pray for him because they felt that he was a threat to them. Either he would leave the neighborhood or they would. One day Papa Thomas learned that his wife and his eldest son, Jane, were attending this church and that he was not aware of it. Furious, he decided to set the church on fire. He went and turned the church upside down. Another day, he found his pastor evangelizing at a small square of Gaza's neighborhood, and he went there and slapped him in front of everyone. Another evening, looking for his wife at home and not finding her, he knew where she was. So he approached the church with a flaming stick to set it on fire. But the moment he saw everyone kneeling in the church, praying and crying from the depth of their heart, he began to ponder. But why are they doing this? Are they crazy? What's going on here? Papa Thomas dropped his stick outside and went and sat at the last bench. Back there, where no one could see him or notice, he was there. When he saw that the service was coming to an end, he left and fled very quickly home. From then on, at every Wednesday and Saturday evening meeting, he would come secretly, sitting on the last bench and leaving very quickly into the night before anyone could see or notice his presence. He did this for almost 3 months. But one evening, he arrived at the church and was surprised to find there was no meeting, not even a program. He sat down and observed the surrounding of this small dented church without cement and made of planks. He came to realize that it was just an ordinary place. Suddenly, he saw a light in the church, all beautiful. What's this light? And why is no one here? He approached the shimmering altar, the place where the pastor stands to preach, from which the beautiful cloud emanated. He sat down just there on a small bench. He was lost in his thoughts. He thought about his difficult childhood, painful youth, all the shattered relationships, the loss of his little Didi, and his painful moments. He thought about his difficult character, what people thought about him his whole life, and wondered why he was like that, why he acted as he did. A soft wind started blowing in the church, and he heard a soft voice tell him deep in his heart, "I can change you if you want." And he said to himself, as if responding to the voice, "I would so like to change. I really want to be better, to be happy, have a different life, something different from what I'm living now. Is it possible to have a different life?" He so longed to be happy. He heard that voice again, telling him, "I am peace. I can give you peace if you want." Again he answered to himself, as if answering again to that same voice, "I would like to be in peace with myself. But where can I find peace? I have already heard about peace so many times here, but is it real? Is it true?" does peace really exist? Happiness and all these things. So he raised his eyes to the sky and made his little prayer. Jesus, I heard you are the Son of God. If you really exist, please change my heart and help me to be happy, to be at peace, and to be a better man. I really don't like my life. It is too difficult. I keep on camouflaging myself with anger and other hard attitude, but deep down, I am a sad man, abandoned. I've always fought alone to get by, which is why I have no regard for anyone around me except the little family I've built. I've never felt loved, supported, or understood by anyone. So, if you really exist, Lord, forgive my faults. I have done so many. And make me feel good too, I beg of you. Instantly, a light appeared to him. He heard a voice speaking through the light. I want to give you my peace. I give you grace and peace. I forgive your sins. Receive peace. At that same moment, Papa Thomas stood up shouting, "Oh my God! Is it real what I'm living? Whoa! It is real! But Jesus is real! Seriously! I have to tell this to everyone. Everyone must know that this Jesus is true." I feel like a little joy right now. I feel revived, rejuvenated in my soul. Oh God, what's happening to me? The pastor immediately came out of his small blank office and saw him there. He was frightened and wanted to run away, recalling the day he was slapped at the market square. But he quickly ran and greeted the pastor eagerly, saying, "Sir, from now on, you have a new brother and a faithful follower of Jesus Christ." The pastor stood there in shock and amazed as he watched this tall man leave the church. And that's how Papa Thomas' story changed. He came to church the following Sunday and testified to what he had experienced. Everyone was so amazed. Papa Thomas, he who was supposed to be our persecutor, is now like Saul of the Bible? Wow! They were really amazed that he turned out to be now a fervent servant of God. Papa Thomas decided to look for his father and mother and make peace with them. He knew he was the bridge of peace between two tribes and several families. And he also believed that through his life, God would lead many to see how good he is and can still change lives and restore families. From then, Papa Thomas undertook to lead all men to Jesus and to bring his entire family to church every Sunday. He decided to help the pastor of the church to help other families find a meaning to their life. He knew he had found something special and wonderful. His experience that night at the church deeply touched and marked him, transforming his life forever. This is certainly what they call an encounter with the Savior. Can Jesus Christ really change lives? Can he change the worst as he did with Saul the Pharisee, a great persecutor, into Paul, the servant of Jesus Christ, an apostle? Can he really change every wicked person into a better man? I believe he can. I really do. Today, Papa Thomas is an intercessor and an evangelist, and he's an indispensable support for all those who have known abandonment and rejection. He prays for them that Jesus would change their lives, change the life of those men who are drowned in alcoholism and smoking and many other vices to escape their harsh realities. Because of course, men have a lot of challenges and harsh realities they are confronted to daily. He prays that they will find a way of salvation through Jesus Christ and that they will hear his sweet voice, capable of changing any man. If you heard his story and want to have the same experience like him, just repeat the same prayer he did and see if Jesus doesn't change your life too. Thank you for following. See you next time for another story.